filming. I had no time really to muck around. He suggested he sent it to her, and he did. And much to my surprise, she sent me a text going, yeah, I like this. You know, from free, I'll do it. And she was, and she did. And with that scene, there came interest from other actors and agencies and casting director. It's kind of unconventional, and it all happened very quickly and very much, yeah.
So you had to, in terms of budget, which I presume was pretty low, you had to just get by on what you had in terms of location as well.
Yes, I mean, one of the things I've learned from making films in this way, you have to count your assets very carefully. And if you have a house, that's a big asset. You know, it can't really overestimate how important that is. Yeah, it was made for very little money. I think it was made for something like maybe $3,500. And of course, as is unfortunately the case with these things, everyone gave their time for free, which I'm very grateful for.
Now you're going to take it to Sundance.
Yes.
And Sundance is the kind of alternative festival to Sundance.
Yeah.
Is there still quite stiff competition to get in?
Yes. I think they said they took 70 shorts from 4,000 shorts. I mean, the whole programme was selected from 5,000. That's including features, and they took about 110 films. So yeah, a lot of people want to be there.
So the film is definitely selected for Sundance, but then there's no great machine to pay for you to go out there or to publicise it.
No.
So how do you get people to know about it? I mean, how do you pay for it all?
Well, social media is very, very useful to Twitter, Facebook, blogging, which I've sort of started to do a bit, but it's very, very useful to connect with, because you can go through the follow lists of the festivals and find out who's interested in the festival product, and then you can get in touch with them. And I've made contacts with PR people from LA. I've made contacts with a couple of newspapers that want to talk when I'm out there, and there's no way on my own, without social media, I would have been able to do that.
It does seem extraordinary, really, in these days when we have so many different ways of viewing things, that there isn't, a widespread dissemination of short films, because short films seem to fit in with the way we live so far.
They do. I think it's quite hard to get people to watch short films. I think that people get more disappointed when they see a poor short than a poor feature film. I think with feature film there's a long dark ache which people will take away and they'll probably think about it for years. But with a short film, it's a bit like you said you were going to tell them a joke, and it doesn't work. There's a profound and immediate sense of disappointment.
Ewan Bailey, the director of Deafblind, and you can see it at Sundance on Monday, if you happen to be in Utah, at 1 o'clock. And his first short is available via his website. Details of that on the Film Programme website. Last week, the director of Shame, Stephen Queen, argued for the supremacy of mood over plot in film. Just released now on DVD is a Spanish thriller with a tightly twisted plot. The premise is this. A young man about to start work as a prison guard is taken on a tour of the building and finds himself caught up in a riot in a high security unit. In a desperate attempt not to be lynched by these desperate men, he pretends to be a freshly incarcerated convicted killer. The critic and expert on Spanish language film Maria Delgado came in to talk about Cell 211. We began with the film does. Truly gruesome opening, bloody and disturbing.
I had to put my hands in front of my eyes. That sequence sets up the in-your-face camera work that distinguishes much of the film, both in narrative and in conceptual terms.
So you have this idea from the opening sequence that the prison is a miserable, terrible and bloody place.
A kind of exploitation as well. I think one of the things that surprised me when the film first came out was that critics didn't really pick up on the political dimensions of the film. The riot takes place because the prisoners want better prison conditions. And at first you don't sympathise with them because the leader of this riot is a very unsympathetic character. He's called Mala Madre, which means son of a bitch. And he really does appear in the early sequences when we first see him framed as a dangerous human being, wonderfully portrayed by the Spanish actor Luis Tosar. Some people may remember he played the drug baron in Michael Mann's Miami Vice, and this is a very different kind of characterization, because where there he was an embodiment of evil, here he begins as somebody very dangerous and menacing, but actually as the film progresses, you see a very different side of him. So while the film sets him up as the villain of the piece, he really isn't as the film progresses.
And one indication of the quite clever plotting, I think, all the way through, is that you think you're starting off with what's a straightforward sort of moral argument, which is it's okay to lie, to pretend you're a prisoner if that's going to save your life. But then there are various implications of what follows from that. But then they introduce another element, which is that 3 of the prisoners are, in fact, political prisoners. They're members of ETA. And therefore you've got that whole trade-off between criminal and political.
I think there are various kind of political lines running through it. You've picked up on the ETA prisoners, and they function as a bargaining tool, which actually doesn't put the prisoners in a particularly good light when they work out that this is a source of strength for their cause. But neither does it put the authorities in a good light, because they're prepared to sacrifice the lives of hundreds of men for these 3 prisoners because of the difficult political situation with regards ETA and the arrangements with the Basque government around the status of these political prisoners in Spain. There are other political motifs that run through. It's interesting that the young prison officer, who's at his first day at work, talks about the wonders of having a job in a prison. He's very excited about having a job. And I suppose when the film was made, unemployment in Spain was running at 21%. It's now closer to 23%. So I'm not surprised. You know, he's a young man in his late 20s, early 30s, who's delighted to have a job. And so there are kind of brief little comments that appear in the film that make you aware of the broader social context in which this film was made. I think it makes points about police brutality, about the brutality of the guards, about the fact that the prisoners' lives are subject to a whole series of different wheeling and dealing that they have no control over, and that ultimately they may think that they hold the card when another political prisoner, but actually as the film progresses they're shown not to.
And where was it actually filmed? Because it does look as though it might be a prison.
It was filmed in the former prison in Zamora. There's a wonderful actually interview with the director, Manuel Monton, on the DVD, where he talks about wanting to give the film a documentary or cinema verite feel. And one of the things he wanted was for it not to be a studio set. He wanted some of that kind of, that tiredness of a prison that's seen better days. You see that the prison is in a real state of disarray and disrepair. You feel you're trapped in there, you're part of that ride, you can't escape. And I think claustrophobic camera work and the way the interiors are conceived make the film genuinely frightening.
Maria Delgado and 1711 was released on DVD this week. Plenty to talk about there, which might make it a good choice for film societies. Incidentally, their annual statistical reviews just revealed that 26% of the films film societies showed are British, neatly anticipating the government's own review out this week. Next week, Alexander Payne, the man who wrote and directed Elections and Sideways on The Descendants.